right? These are things I would rather tell you to change your environment than tell you to go listen to something, because the byproduct of changing your environment is you listening or doing these other things. It's just simple. If you unsubscribe to a bunch of stuff on YouTube that you're typically subscribed to, what's going to happen? Your algorithm is going to change.
Yo, what's really good? This is Streetwise. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds, and today I'm really excited about the guest we got with us, my man, Arnold Tarpley. Or you go by Trey, don't you?
Yeah. Arnold or Trey, man. I'm happy to be here, though. Happy to be here.
Okay. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to the audience. So let's start out, man. What are you doing right now? What are you working on? What are you building? What takes up most of your day?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So I just finished in the USFL, which is the United States Football League's minor league football, basically a filter to the NFL, depending on how you do. So we just finished that. We were in the championship for that as well. Didn't end up winning, but we ended up making it there, and had a good performance, at least defensively wise. As far as what I'm doing right now is training, preparing, God willing, for an opportunity to go to the NFL this year, and then I also run a business called Yelp Digital. It's an S corporation where we help small business owners and entrepreneurs find leads, which are essentially just people that are looking for your product or service. So we help them get and find qualified leads to help them grow their business. So, I just finished training now, got in the door, obviously, meeting with you, and then I'll have some work to do as well as just making sure everything with the team is going well. And, we're hitting our check marks, but we are in the process of growing. About a year in with that, coming to a year. We're at like 9 months. So I guess it feels like a year for sure. But yeah, man, just growing every day.
Dude, that's super exciting. I knew you had a lot of stuff going on. I knew you were playing. I knew you had the business, but I didn't know exactly what it was that you guys were doing. So you're basically generating leads for companies that are trying to build up their base. So you're helping them get people in the door. Is it a specific industry that you target?
Yes, that's a great question. I used to be an independent life insurance broker. So we started with primarily all life insurance agents. Now people are starting to reach out to us about more industries rather than just life and health. So right now we're in the process of talking to a few people who are doing roofing. I actually went out and hired, essentially, he's kind of like my partner, if you want to call so, who runs all the day-to-day advertising background, gets everything set up with all of our clients. And he's been doing this for 8+ years, just paid advertising and lead generation. So he has a lot of experience in a bunch of different areas, but most of the people that I've been marketing to myself have been insurance agents. So we are expanding at this point, looking to do a little bit more B2B stuff as we continue to grow.
Oh, that's so cool, man. So you're putting me at this crossroads where I got to figure out which way I want to go down first and dive down. But since we're talking about the business, how did you get this thing started? You said you were initially a licensed life insurance agent, but then you spun that off to create this business. So it's your business, you're the founder, and then you're now building out your team. Is
That is
that
correct.
correct?
So, yeah, that's correct. So, kind of take everybody back a little bit how I actually started the journey and actually ended up here. So, independent life insurance broker, which is 1099. Working. It's 100% commission based. Really good job. That was my first taste of not working a 9 to 5. I kind of went out on my own. The reason I did it, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, is back in 2021, I was still been pursuing the NFL. It's always been my goal to get there. So pursuing that, but I needed to train. And the place that I live in Nashville, which if anybody's ever been in Nashville, the cost of living is pretty high. And it costs money to be able to train, eat well, do recovery, massages, like those things cost money, right? And most people that I surround myself with are NFL players, right? So I believe, as a believer, I believe that, you have to be it before you see it, right? You got to become that person. So part of that process is, learning and growing and investing and believing in yourself, right? And believing in yourself doesn't just mean, woo, wah, wah, I'm going to just pray and think everything's going to work. Like, you got to put in the work. So the reason I'm saying that is the only reason I got here, the first step was that it was fueled by me making sure that I was in tip top shape, eating well, sleeping well, and could provide for me and my now wife. who was living together. And we were trying to find a way, well, I was trying to find a way to provide for her and make sure I could pursue my dream. So a regular 9 to 5 for me just wasn't going to work. And I have nothing against 9 to 5s, but in my situation, it wasn't. So I said, okay, I have to find a way. I didn't get my degree in anything where I could just go get a, 6 or 7, not 7, 6 figure paying salary job like that. Right. So I was like, okay, cool. I have to do something that provides flexibility and also provides me the ability to generate my own income. I had previously done a sales job, door knocking, selling AT&T products and services on behalf of a company I was working for. And I was like, I need something where I can get a little bit more money and I can be faster. And it's really just all based off of sweat equity. So that's how I ended up running into the life insurance space. So I'm in the life insurance space. I'm doing that for 8 to 12 months. I'm killing it, right? First few months were really difficult because it was just like something brand new. You got to bet on yourself. I'm driving around from Nashville to East St. Louis. That was kind of like this is like the most important part of my phase to how I got here, because it showed me like, really, people talk about bet on yourself, but like until you've had your back against the wall, you don't have any money, and you really got to figure this thing out on your own. Like that's when you really figure out who you are, what you're made of, what type of person you are. And I kind of almost forced myself into that position because I had no other choice. So during that 8 to 10 months, I was literally like figuring so much about myself. I learned the difference between, for an independent worker, stopping work, right? Because you're your own boss now, essentially, right? You don't own a business,
No
but you are
doubt.
1099. So you're kind of
Yeah.
the, tier below that, if you want to say, kind of, if you want to call it a hierarchy, right? You're essentially right below that. So you still earn what you eat, right? Or earn what you kill, right? So in that, with
Yep.
that mentality, I learned that if I stop working at 4 o'clock, right, I can only estimate I can make a certain type of income. But when I stopped working at 8 o'clock, it literally jumped up, and I was like, wow, 4 hours makes all the difference. Mixed in with the law of averages, which for anybody that's wondering, all that means is just how many reps does it take to get to your goal, right? So fast forward, I had to preface all that so you guys know a little bit about myself. That built the character and who I am. That fueled me to be able to create Yelp Digital. So I did that for 8 to 10 months. I learned what it took to be successful, and then I got the opportunity in USFL. I'm gonna kind of combine all this together, to kind of, it'll probably
That's
answer like
perfect because then yeah, that's perfect because then we'll break them all down and get granular as we go through. So keep it coming, man. This is great.
Yeah. So I'm in the I get the opportunity to go to the USFL, right? So I have to stop selling because life insurance, I can't sell that while I was in person too. So I was going to people's houses. I wasn't doing a lot of
Okay.
it virtually, just a few of it. So I was like, well, maybe I could do appointments, and I was like, nah, not really. With my schedule with football, it's going to be hard to be able to sell life insurance because once again, I'm 1099. I don't have a business, which we'll get to in a second. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, you know, I went from trading time for money to trading time for money. It was just I can make more money here, and now it's me playing football. So it's like totally fine with me. So I go into doing that, and I'm like, well, I got so used to making pretty big paychecks doing that to go into football where it's like, oh, you only get paid every Friday or whatever it may be. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool and all. I'm pursuing my dreams, my goals. That's great, but the money aspect of it, I wasn't used to because I'm used to being able to just get it. If I want to go make a few $100s, I know how to go do that. So
Hmm.
what I did was I was like, all right, cool. I've always been fascinated with like just business in general, but I didn't really know how to get there. So in this process, I'm watching a lot of podcasts. I'm consuming. I'm a big environment person, so I'm watching YouTube. I'm listening to audiobooks all the time, listening to podcasts. I'm just surrounding my mind with the things that are going to make me into the person that I'm wanting to become. So during this time, my mentor now, Rashawn Mitchell, he actually was offering a course teaching people how to. He big into Turo, so he was showing people how to rent cars out on Turo. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, I want to make some more money, so I'm gonna put my car on Turo. But as I went to go buy the course, he had an Instagram live. He was like, I'm gonna be doing a 5 day masterclass teaching people how to take their car off of Turo and do private rentals. I was like, It's like the ROI is going to be higher. So what happened was I go into this course, right? Mindful, I'm in the season. I'm taking the course, or I'm on the calls, I guess you could call it. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's teaching me how to do private rentals. He's talking about like Facebook ads, and I'm like, okay, cool. That's cool and all. So the season ends. Unfortunately, I did not get called to the NFL. I was not one of the people that got moved up to the NFL last year from the USFL. So I had to come back to the USFL. So I'm like, all right, do I go back to selling or do I use this new thing I figured out about cars and like ads and stuff? But one thing that caught my eye during the 5 day masterclass, where he was talking about leads. And I was like, I had to pay for leads when I was an insurance agent because the only way I could sell to these people and make money is I had to pay for leads. We didn't get free leads at the place I worked for, right? So you'd pay, $20, $15, $30, $50, even $80 for one lead, right? Which once again is just somebody who's looking for what you're trying to sell. And if you're selling a pretty expensive product. $80 to make $500 is like, that's a good trade off. Anybody would do that, right? So it's just how
Okay.
many $80 things can I grab until I get to my goal. So what happened was he was talking about leads, and I'm like, yo, I used to pay for these. I'm like, I actually used to pay for Facebook leads. And I was like, you know what? I just asked him because he had like, when you did the 5-day masterclass, you got the opportunity to get on like a call, like a mastermind type call, right? So I get on there and I'm like, yo, do you have can you show me how to generate life insurance leads? And he was like, I can't, but I know somebody. It's like, okay, look how God works. So he introduced me to a gentleman that literally was like, look, I'll sell you another course teaching you how to generate leads. I'm like, all right. I'm used to, like I said, this is so important for my story. I'm used to going all that. And I know I've already felt during that process what it was like to put up money to invest in yourself, right? That's just what I do. So at this point, I'm like, okay, cool. Put the money up to buy the course. I buy the course. And then now we get into like the actual business, right? So I figure out how to generate leads. And now I'm like, okay, do I generate leads for myself and sell them? I'm still 1099. Now I'm just saving money, but I'm still 1099. I'm trying to get, I want to say it's Robert Kiyosaki's book where he talks about the
Cash flow
four,
quadrant.
yeah, exactly.
You
Right.
got
The four quadrants.
employee, business owner, self-employed, and well, employee, self-employed, business owner, and then investor. You got
Exactly,
it.
exactly. So I'm going from self-employed to business owner, and I knew the only way I can make that jump is I can't keep trading my time for money, right? Even if I'm not spending money on leads, I'm saving money, but I'm still spending my time. It's like, all right, well, I got to hop over to the other side of the fence and figure out how to make this work. So I was generating leads for myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start. I had built like a small team. Well, I didn't build it. My manager kind of gave me these 3 little recruits. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna just dish these leads off to these recruits, and I'm gonna figure it out because I knew the lead business. If I can figure out a way to create a system where people can pay for me basically getting on a computer and figuring out how to do it, I can hire somebody to get on the computer eventually once I master my craft. And then I can replace myself and I can keep taking, like, I look at it like I'm just zooming out. I can keep taking steps back. So I learned how to generate the leads. I did it for 5 or 6 months. Then I went and hired somebody. Now I got customer service. I went out and hired somebody. Now I take meetings. I go out and hire. So like that's kind of where I'm at in the process. But let's go back. So I didn't go to the USFL, right? This is August, or didn't go to the NFL. So this is August of last year. So August of 2022. And at this
Okay.
time, I'm like, you know what? Let me figure out how to, become a business owner. So I go out, I start trying to run ads for myself. I start just falling on my face for 4 months. I'm living off of credit, which by the way, I bought another mentorship back in 2021 when I was doing the life insurance on credit and business credit, which is like for anybody, I always say the foundation of like any business if you're trying to use OPM, which is other people's money. So I kind of already had that risk tolerance there for the credit because 2 years ago I'd already bought the course and spent a year in a mentorship. So I knew foundationally how to like leverage the money. By this time, though, ironically, so from August to November, I had all the money I made for the USFL, all my money I made from insurance was all gone because I was just falling on my face. I knew I had to go through the learning curve. I had to fail, like just falling on my face. It was to a point where I was literally living off my business credit card. Like I did barely had any money in my personal account on for my credit card or just for my checking and savings, and I was living off the business credit. I had some pretty high business credit cards, so I was just moving the money around, figuring out how to make it work, paying my rent on there, doing everything. So November comes, and then I run. This is kind of a long story, but I'm gonna just knock as much as I can out, and I'm sure you'll ask questions. But November comes, man, and like I said, I've been consuming all this information. So in my mind, I've already been listening to podcasts, but at this time, it's been years, right? And somebody else that I really like, there's a whole bunch of them, but one of the people I really like that stuck with me, honestly, back from like 2018 up until now is Gary Vee. And he has this analogy where
Yeah.
he talks about jab, jab, hook, right? And all it is meant
Okay.
essentially is just like give as much things away for free. Don't ask for anything. Provide as much value up front. And then when the opportunity presents itself, you hit them with a hook, right? So, the boxing analogy. So I was like, you know what, cool. I'm going to do that. I was like, because everything else I'm doing is not working. I'm trying to run ads. I'm trying to tell people I got these leads, but I have no social proof. I have nothing, right? Because once again, I'm new in the business. I'm just falling on my face. I spent all my money. I'm like, well, I don't really got that much more money to spend. I got to live off this business credit. So it's like, well, my back's against the wall. What am I going to do? And I said, all right, well, I just start giving it away for free. And then hopefully somebody likes it. So I was talking to one of my buddies who's a life insurance agent. I'm like, look, man, blah, 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 blah. He was like, look, dude, I'm paying this guy $1,000 a month, for his leads. And I feel like based off what you're telling me and what you showed me that you kind of know more than he does. He's like, But he has more clients. And I was like, well, I'll pay. He's like, you want to pay me $500? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, bro, just give it a try for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? If it doesn't work after the 2 weeks, you don't even got to pay me the 500, bro. I'll just do it. So I'm in the lab. I'm going at it. I'm trying to figure it out. So 2 weeks comes up. He shoots me a call. He's like, bro, these leads are great. Like he's made X amount of money. I think he made like $15,000 off of. He didn't even pay me anything. He's like, yo, I got a guy on my team that wants to try, that wants to hop on. Can we do that? I said, yeah. I did that one for free. Then I had like 3 or 4 people I was doing for free for a whole month. I'm not making no money. I'm still business credit back against the wall. I'm like, all right, cool. You know what? Forget it. November comes. So I'm like, all right, that worked. At this point, though, the guy was like, I'll give you $500. So he gave me 500. So I'm fine. I got 500 up, right? So I'm like, all right, cool.
500, got some money in my pocket.
Yeah, I'm like $500. I'm chipping away at all this debt I got piling up. How I can figure it out. So I'm like, you know what? Let's keep this going. This free thing's working because the free thing, right, is a little tip, right? The insider for why the jab hook is so important is because you don't know what you don't know until you have the expertise, right? It's hard for you to say, okay, give me X amount of money, and then if something comes up and you don't handle like a professional, your SOL. But if you give it to them for free, right, and stuff is the fan, they don't really feel the heat of it because they didn't exchange any money, and you can give yourself the time to fall on your face. So when I first started, I had no confidence because like I said, I only had a few people I work with. It was like those 3 people on my team. They're on my team, so like they're not really going to complain. Now I'm marketing to strangers. So this guy I'd worked with for a month at this time, he paid me $500. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, all right, well, the only way I can grow this is doing the same thing because I still don't know if this works. I don't have enough social proof. I can't go
So
to
let me
somebody.
ask you something real quick.
Go ahead.
So when you're talking about, just for the sake of let me break it down for the audience real quick. So you had your own team where you had people that were now activating your leads. So you had leads, but you're giving them to your people, which would free up your time. Am I with you so far? And now you're going and you're talking to other people and you're generating leads for them, but you're doing it for free. So all this stuff that you're doing, you're creating all the things that you're building on, you're offering as a service for free to other people. And then if they like what you bring to them, then they'll pay you on the back end.
That is correct. Yep, that is how I started. Yep.
Okay. So what specifically were you doing for them for free? What were you giving away? I get the whole concept of adding value to somebody to build up your confidence, your credibility, and then hit them with the hook. What specifically were you doing that they were willing to even give you a chance? Just very granular for somebody that has no idea of this industry at all.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. Thank you for I get carried away. So thank you for slowing me
I
down.
love
So
it, bro. I'll do it.
yeah,
That's what I'm here for.
yeah, so no, good point. So what I was doing at that time, right, is I was running Facebook and Instagram ads for life insurance agents. So let's say, Matt comes to me and he's like, look, I want people to sell life insurance, right? Final expense, cremation plans, term insurance. I want people who want to buy what I have to sell. So as a life insurance agent or real estate agent, insert whatever you are, these people in this instance were life insurance agents. They were coming to me and they were like, hey, if I can get 100 leads from you, how much would it cost? Right. So what's happening is typically people will pay, you'll have to pay somebody per lead, $10 per lead, $50 per lead. Instead of me charging them for the lead, because you have to, just so everybody understands, in order to get a lead, you have to spend either time or money, right? So I was doing it online, so I had to spend money, right? And I don't mean my time or money. I mean like actual, you have to spend money online to market, meaning run ads. So like put an ad out online that says, hey, if you live in the state of Florida, there are life insurance plans available. If you are interested in getting some life insurance, please click the learn more button, right? Everybody who's watching this has seen an ad in some way, shape, or form.
Oh
I
yeah.
was just running ads on behalf of these life insurance agents. So typically when you run those ads, it costs me money to generate them. Now, when I get 10, 15, 20, I would then go back to Matt and say, look, I have 20 people who are really interested in the state of Florida for what you want to sell. Do you want them? And he says, yes. And all I do to make money, what I do now, right, is I just figure out the difference between how much it costs me to actually get those people, which is time, right? Because I'm not using my money, money, not time. So if it costs me $150 to get these, or if it costs me $100 to get 10 people, that was $10 per person to get each person. And now I sell it to Matt for 20, so I make $10. what I was doing at that time is, instead of saying, hey, it cost me $100 to get the people and I'm going to charge them 20, I was just saying, hey, it cost me $100 to get the people, just pay me the 100. So they were getting my service for free, right? Because typically part of that $10 is the time and effort that I had to put in to run ads, to market, right? I'm basically getting compensated for doing the work of getting you these people. You don't have to do anything. You just give me $20, and then I give you 10 people. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm all good, right? But it obviously took time for me to get those people, because then you can take that $20 that you spent and go out and make $500, right? So it's constantly a transaction going up the line. At that time, though, I was just doing it for the wholesale price, and that's what I use the word free because I didn't make anything. I was spending hours and hours and hours of my time. Was it really free to them? No, they had to pay the wholesale price, which you don't do anywhere else, because just like any business, it costs somebody to make something, and then they make the difference, right? So kind of going back to the story, and thank you for slowing me down. Yes, that's what I was doing at the time, right? So, but I was doing that for the first 4 weeks for this individual. And then he was like, I will pay you $500 just for your time. Thank you for doing this for me. He just gave me $500. So what I said is, okay, cool. Me doing this for free and giving it to people at the wholesale price, which we're, now going forward, we know that's what's free is when I'm mentioning it. What I was doing is from November, when November started, I said, okay, cool. Well, I had heard something about the rule of 100, right? Which is you can do 100 of a lot of different things. You can spend $100 on advertising. You can spend 100. You can reach out to 100 people, to inquire about your business. And I forget what the other one is. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to DM people because I have nothing else to do. And I'm sitting around the crib. And like I said, at this point, money is tight. So I make a list of 100 people on Google. I'm kind of descriptive. So I make a list of 100 people on Google Docs for Instagram. And I start reaching out to them. The first 10 people I reached out to, 5 of them responded with the offer. And basically all my offer was, hey, I've been a life insurance agent for 18 months at this point. And I'm like, I know everything it takes to be successful. I've created a program, right? If you're interested, I'll give you the leads for free. Just message me back. We can set up a Zoom call. And I was doing these rink-a-dink Zoom calls with no social proof and just making offers to people and saying, hey, man, I'll give it to you for free. And I had this one individual who's now my boy, who was like, yeah, man, he's like a very notable person in the life insurance space. And he was like, yeah, man, I'll try it out. 2 days within him working with me, he made $2,000 his first 2
So
days.
these are guys that they're not quite, or they were already life insurance agents, or they might have been interested in getting in the life insurance space. Were they already there? Did they have to do something to get started? How did that, you're just blindly hitting people up, or did you know that they were already interested in getting into the space?
Yeah, so because I was a life insurance agent, I've already followed all the pages that had thousands and thousands of followers. So I knew where my niche was. I knew exactly where to target. Right, I knew exactly where to go. I knew the type of people to DM. I knew the verbiage to use because once again, I had spent 10 months every day in that world. So I knew exactly where to go. So I just made a list of all the top people in the industry because I knew who they were. I knew their names. I knew what they did. I watched a lot of their training videos to help me become a good agent. But now I'm just on the other side of the fence. So when I reached out to them, the individual I reached out to, the first 2 days, he made $2,000. He texted me that night. He said, bro, these are great leads. He was like, I need to get my entire team. He said, I have 100 agents. I said, what? He said, yeah, bro. He was like, how much do you gonna charge me for this? So you know what I said? $500. So he was like, yeah, bro, that's cool. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna put you in a group message with some other people. He put me in a group message with 2 individuals. One of them, I'm still working with them to this day. He's my longest tenured client that we have. And then from there, honestly, the rest is history. The word of mouth grew from those 2. I kept DMing people for the next, honestly, up until May. I've been DMing people every day. It went from 100, obviously, in the season. It went down to maybe like 10 to 20 a day. But started reaching out to people, man. And, at this point now, we went from having those really 3 agents to now, we got 50 plus in our network that work with us every month. Our price has gone up a little bit in terms of it's not $500 anymore.
Good, good. I was going to tell you, man, you got to increase that price if you haven't yet.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, and we built a team around it, man. So I know that was a long-winded story, but I like to tell people that because I know one of the most important things when I listen to podcasts or I watch videos is I always like to know, like, how did you get there? Like, what did you do? So I always like to explain to people like the mindset part of how I got to where I got, because those 4 months I spent where nothing was happening and I just had to start giving stuff away for free were the most important month, because it taught me so much and it showed me like how to literally go back to zero. Like I worked my way up, went back to zero, and I had to work my way back up again. And that happens. It's a part of learning.
Wow. Yeah, dude, that was a lot in a little bit of time, but I appreciate it because there was so much value there, and you're gonna make my job moving forward really easy. So when you're talking about you have these clients that are paying you a monthly rate for you to generate leads from, so you're spending the time now and money to get, to get the push out there on Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever. You're doing the initial work, the leads come in, then you're passing off these leads to people that are paying you a monthly setup on a recurring basis. Is that right?
Yep. So they can pay weekly or monthly. Like now we have
Is
weekly
there a
options.
minimum is there a minimum guarantee that you provide for these people so they feel like they're getting their money worth?
So typically we like to tell them they'll get anywhere from like 3 to 5 leads per day, depending on what type of lead, because we offer two different type of leads. And now we're starting to move to different platforms. So, primarily it's been Facebook and Instagram, but we're moving over to TikTok, to Google now. So, we kind of have different quotas depending on what platform we're using, depending on how much you want to pay. There's a lot of different factors now, because like I said, when I first started, I was like, hey, I'll just give you X amount, and I would give it to them until we got there. But now I kind of understand the numbers and how everything works, so I'm able to set the expectations just based on what they're looking for. So we meet with every agent before they get started. That's kind of what's different from us. Most people who do lead marketing, they don't do that. At least not in the life insurance space. They just sell the leads and kind of keep it low key. I like to meet with people because I feel like the strategy is just as important. So yeah, it just depends on each person's situation, what they're looking to do.
No, I love that, and I've seen a lot of your stuff on Instagram, and I've just been wondering, like, man, where did this guy get the inside? And I figured you had, being an athlete, and that's how I know you. So just for the record, and I'll probably put this in and at the end of the episode, or I'll come back and cut it in at the beginning. But I met you at the Alliance of American Football, the AAF, back in 2019, and so I knew that you just came from. Did you just graduate from Vanderbilt? Whenever
Mm-hmm.
was that your first year out? So you went from Vanderbilt senior to the AAF. That's right.
Yep, that next
Okay.
spring. Yep.
Okay. Cool. So I knew you were on that journey, but seeing you do this thing, and I've followed you and some of the other guys from the team ever since, and it's been really cool to watch you guys on your journey and keep playing. I think that's awesome. But with you specifically, to be able to spin and pivot, I mean that's what it's all about. And you see guys that are unable to do that, and it's like, oh man, they had this great platform, but they weren't able to build off of it. But I mean, obviously that's not you. I mean, you're ahead of the game, and the books that you're reading, the mentors that you're seeking. I mean, you are a step ahead, and this is exactly why I wanted you on the show, because there's people listening that need the mindset that you already have, not just as an athlete, but it seems like you've been wired for a while to seek this sort of mentorship that you have. So because you gave me so much so early, you're forcing me to jump around a little bit.
It's all
What
good.
at this point in your business, what do you have to do to level up again? Like what's the next step to replace yourself? Because you've already like taken my thunder. Like I was gonna pull that out of you, but you hit us with it so quickly and so beautifully. So at this point in the business though, you should still be thinking about, all right, what's the next thing I gotta do to take my stuff out? So what does that look like for you at this point?
That's a wonderful question. It's crazy that you said it, because today we're actually bringing in somebody else. So I read this book called Who Not How by
Dan
Dan
Sullivan, Benjamin Hardy, come on, man, let's go. Let's
Banger.
go.
Banger book, man. Banger book. So, because my mentor had been met, he kept saying it on our weekly calls. I'm like, yeah, I got to grab this. So, I grabbed that book, listened to the audio book through and through, watched some of his interviews, and the concept really speaks for itself, but the book just kind of reiterates it. And to answer your question, for a while, I had to spend time figuring out what to do, because I just knew that if I was going to hire somebody, I wanted to make sure that they know what to do. Till I read the book, and it was talking about finding who's and not trying to figure out how. So I'm at the point now where my business where I'm just looking for the right who's. So right now, one of the who's that we're looking for is an outreach person. So somebody that's doing what I've been doing on Instagram, but on my behalf, still keeping the personalization because we go through waves, right? So I'm very transparent about my process, right? Like right when I got to training camp in the USFL, we hit our highest mark. We had like 55 agents. August, we had like 48. May, we went from 48 to 30. In the beginning of June, we had 21 agents. So in 2 months, we went from 55 to 21, strictly off of the fact of it's my first time growing in business. So I'm like, oh yeah, all these people are staying. But you have this thing in any subscription based business or recurring revenue model called churn, which I didn't know about. So I'm like, okay, well, churn is a real thing, right? So now what I've realized from going up and coming down is the key for me to grow is to constantly be making offers. Because I'll have sprees where I can go out. Like if I didn't play football, we would grow a lot more than we are right now up until now. And I read the book because I was trying to figure out, well, how can I make all these offers? And the answer was just find a who. So right now we're in the process of bringing somebody else onto the team to make us what a 5-man team to have people who can actually do like outreach, and that would be really really big because I don't have a problem with like taking meetings and taking calls, but the biggest problem is like sitting down and making a list, finding new people to reach out to. Because the service is so good, the referrals are really, really good. Like I haven't had to run any paid advertising. I don't plan on it. I guess that would be my step after this would be to actually start running ads for my business. Like I run ads for my clients, but I don't run ads for my own business. Like it's just, oh, these are really good word of mouth. They just tell people, which is obviously the best way to grow any business because it's, free. You don't have to do anything for it. But if I really want to put some steam on it, we'll start running ads for ourselves. And then from there is this diversification, which is the first thing we talked about. Most of the people we work with are life or health insurance agents. But now, because of the Instagram, because I've been posting, because I've been trying to create myself as an authority figure, more people like you just reached out to me, right, about interviewing me, but more people have been reaching out about solar, roofing, real estate, wholesale. I've had more people reaching out to me just about leads in general and getting clients. So that will be another step because I personally want to go to more of a B2B model at some point, still offer what we do. But yeah, man, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Dude, you just opened it up, man. I said you were making my job easier, but you're actually making it harder because there's so many different things that I like want to ask you about now that I need to make sure I'm maintaining the flow. And this just I might just have to hit you up and stay in contact. But first, before we get too far off, I gotta ask you. So you already hit me with the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant. And if you know Robert Kiyosaki, he also wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. So we know that. You did the Dan Sullivan, Benjamin Hardy, Who Not How, and that's good because he talks about making a to who list instead of a to do list. Those guys also wrote, if you haven't read The Gap in the Gain, have you checked that one out by the
I
same
haven't,
authors?
I haven't, but I'm gonna need to.
Okay. So check out The Gap in the Gain, and then they just came out with a new book. I put it on my Audible account last night. It's called 10x is easier than 2x.
Okay.
And so if you're familiar with building a business, that concept is like, okay, scaling is extremely difficult. And as a solopreneur, we often get stuck doing the stuff and replacing ourselves, delegating in order to elevate. We often have a hard time doing that. So it's the whole concept of getting to 2x is really the most difficult part. And once I get to there, getting to 10x is actually a lot easier, but I have to do the work to scale out of my business, build out that team now so I can then do it. Are there any other books that you're looking at? Have you heard of EOS, Traction, any of that stuff? What else are you reading? What other tools you got that can add value? Alex Hermosi, any other podcast references that you got? I want to
Yeah.
learn what you got.
Yeah, man. So as far as audiobooks, I just got you said Audible. I just got on Audible because I was more of a hard copy guy, but I realized that
Audible's the
audio
way to go, brother.
well for me, especially because I can increase the
Moving around.
and
Yeah.
put it at like 1.25, 1.5,
That 1.25 is nice.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and you can kind of get through it because you only grab a few things. You're never going to understand every single detail in the book. That's not the purpose. Is to grab as many concepts as you can. So for myself though, man, nah, I just listen. I listen to my mentor, his podcast, which is the No Fluff podcast. I listen to Alex Ramosi, his two podcasts. So he has his Alex Ramosi channel and Mosi Media. So both of those provide tremendous value. I used to listen to a lot of stuff until about 2 3 weeks ago. I've kind of trimmed down everything because
That's always good.
I'm really trying to consolidate what I'm listening to. Because
Yeah.
you can have that information overload where you just got so much information you start becoming allergic to execution, and I don't want to be in that place. So for me it's just like a matter of like, all right, cool. I kind of focus on those two, man, and then I pick my audio book. Like right now I'm listening to UOU by Eric Thomas. So I'm
Yeah,
just
my guy.
one. I was listening to um, a book by Dr. Miles Monroe called The Power of Purpose. That was my one
Okay.
before this. I just kind of switch it up between the spiritual, and then just the kind of the mindset books, the self help books, and then outside that, man, I think the thing I'm starting to learn, and this is something Hormozy says, and I just believe it because I've lived it, is like I'm learning. I learn more just like executing, man. Like just executing, like getting out there and just falling on my face, and being like, oh, well, that's not the way to do it. Like it sucks, but then when you look at it, it's like the easiest way to learn something because like I could read something all day, but it's never gonna hit me until I actually go do it. And so I was like, oh, well, why do I just save myself an hour or not an hour, but hours of listening to all this stuff and just go execute. So I've kind of transitioned what I'm listening to not as much like self help stuff. And once again, like for the listeners, I only recommend this type of thinking once you've built a strong, in my opinion, year to 2 years of really going hard on like
Mm.
understanding the self-help industry, understanding like your mindset, because you can't advance from what I'm about to say to what I'm about to say until you have that foundation, because that foundation is still going to create your habits, and your habits are everything at the end of the day, like your behaviors. So where I'm at now, though, to answer your question is, more or less really listening, like um, trying to focus more on like what I want to do with my money. So as we talked about the quadrants, when I get to that next quadrant, what are the moves going to be that I make? Um, understanding infinite banking, which is a concept utilizing life insurance, whether it be index universal life insurance or whole life. Getting into real estate, understanding, kind of starting to look into rental properties, figuring out what I want to do with that, where I want to actually put my money, and then just establishing like my team. So listening to more just like organizational stuff, like that's why I like Hormozy, because I think he offers more of like a business rather than like self help ish type stuff. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm listening to, man. That's why I try to surround myself with every day, and I just try to take a little bit of it and then just go execute on it as quick as I can, so I can just learn and then use that skill going forward.
That's good, man. And that's the athlete right there. And that's the mindset that most people don't have, that you have a head start, and it's a superpower because, you've grown up that way, and it assists you. It's not that other people can't pull from that, but I can just tell by talking to you, you're an athlete in the way that you think and the way that you build. And in my experience, it's attaching myself to those resources, the Alex Hormozi, Kiyosaki, Gino Wickman, Pat Lencioni. I could keep going on, and aggressively listening to this stuff every single day has accelerated my growth to the point that, I mean, I'm so much farther ahead now than I was just a year ago. And then you rewind back 18 months. It's crazy what you
Yep.
can do in just a short amount of time. But then you extrapolate over, I think, what's the quote? We overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what can be done in a decade. And
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. And you can really, we think so much about, man, in 6 months, I got to be here. Next month, I got to get this. Next year, I got to get this. But if I can start thinking in maybe like 18-month time spans, and Hermosi talks about that, you could tell how wealthy somebody is by how wide their time frame gap is. Are they speaking in 5-year gap? Are they talking in a 10-year gap? And no, I think that's really good. For me, um, so when I met you in 2019, we were in year 3 of operating our first business. We have a Mosquito Joe franchise that we've been operating since 2016. And my dad bought into that franchise in 2016. I was working in the inner city doing coaching and a lot of administrative stuff before then, and came in and just start running the business, not knowing anything about anything, and blew through cash like it was bubble gum. And man, fell on our face and my face quite a bit and tripped up. And it wasn't until last year that I hired a general manager, and it's just making the small adjustment and working on leveling yourself up can go such a long way. So I just wanted to like hone in on that because I mean, I just see it in what you're doing. I think that's really cool. For me though, I've learned that I'm not just killing bugs. I'm in the franchising space. And this might be something that we talk about because I'll be a franchise consultant by the end of this year. So basically going to people who have money and they want to put their money and build out assets. Well, franchising is a great way to do it. And so for me, this podcast, a lot of what I'm transitioning into now is generating leads for people who might want to purchase a franchise. And franchising is, it's kind of like what people think about in real estate. I'm gonna put my money and I'm gonna build out this portfolio. Well, franchising is very similar. So
Mhm.
now it's interesting. I'm sure I'll turn it back to you. I'm sure in what you're doing, there's probably a very minimal difference in generating leads for life insurance, for roofing. For franchising, once you have the system down, you could probably duplicate it. Am I right?
You're 100% right. Yeah, it's at that point, it's just understanding the metrics of whatever platform you're using and figuring out what the person's goal is, and then being able to connect the two. And I think that sales in general is in my opinion, like it's the number one necessary skill or understanding of set of skills for anybody that's looking to do any business. And honestly, in my opinion, anything, even football, which could be a whole nother conversation. I feel like when you understand how businesses work, right, it plays a like crucial role, which is why I think that what we've done in our space with like our business is so impactful is because I don't come at it as like a marketer who's never sold anything. And I don't come at it like a salesperson who's never marketed. I've literally lived in both worlds. Like now I've fallen on my face so much, I know what it looks like to market. I understand the numbers and how there's ups and downs. I understand who I'm trying to look for, right? The target audience, what platforms work better than others, right? And I also understand what it takes to sell. So you can bring me any product or service, I feel like I can sell it. You can bring me any idea and I can explain how we can get there with the marketing strategy. We just got to put both of them together, which I'm very fortunate because I had to go through the sales and then I learned the marketing. So now I feel like no matter what I do, it's going to work in terms of like our strategy. Right? It's just a matter of me understanding what the person wants and who they're trying to get. So yeah, at that point, it's just copy and paste, and then just putting the teams together to make it last and make it run well. Um, whether it be that person's team or somebody from my team that we go out and get.
How has getting married and starting that family, being the spiritual leader and building that up, how has that changed your mindset? How has that affected your pace as you grow and as you build?
That's a wonderful question. That's actually a really good question. Bro, I think the biggest thing it has done for me is heighten my perspective. I wouldn't say it's changed anything because of the conversation that me and my wife always have. We've been talking about marriage and the future since literally our like fourth date. So we kind of already knew we were locked in. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
time. But yeah, man, I think it's heightened everything. The things that I knew and felt from before. I'm just like that much quicker. Like my response to things are quicker. You know, and I think that's also applied for business as well because I was talking to my best friend last night, and we were just talking about as you get older, like he just had his son this year, which is my godson. So we were just talking, and he was talking about how like he only has 4 or 5 like really close friends, and we were just talking about how like as you grow, that same principle applies for business. It's like you grow and new things get added, and you get that heightened sense because all that is for him. He has his son now, right? He has his son and his wife, most important things in his life, right? So everything else is kind of like obsolete in a way, right? It's still important, essentially, but kind of in a way. So to answer your question for myself, I think it's just heightened my awareness of our relationship with her. But then on top of that, for the business, the things that I've been thinking about, like you talk about forward thinking, which is where you're talking about the gap in between like thinking 10 years, 5 years, or 20 years, 2 decades down the line. For me, has just heightened that, like made this that a lot more aware for me for the business. Because I was going to probably wait another 2, 3 weeks to hire the who. Honestly, to hire the who, because I
Mm.
told my team like, hey, I interviewed the guy back at the end of um, June, and I told him like, yeah, man, we're probably going to go forward with you. But I was just kind of I don't want to use the word procrastinating, but I was waiting for that right opportunity, right? And then I just refer back to my mind, Trey, there'll never be a right opportunity. You just got to do it. So that's why I ended up doing it. But that heightened awareness because I have goals that I want to reach before the end of this year, and those goals are tied in with my wife and I. Things that we have talked about, and that coincides with the business as well. So I think it's just heightened everything, man. Just taking
No, it's
everything
cool.
one step more aware.
I like that you use the word, you use the term heightened everything when I speak into people who are younger than me. And so I've been married for, this is our 8th year. I've got 3 kids now. And it just, every time you level up, every time, so you get engaged, there's a magnifying glass. Everything gets, 10x more magnified. It never, you should never think that it's going to make things easier or push things away or distract, because that it's not the case. It magnifies. If you have issues before, it's going to magnify those issues when you get engaged. Then you get married, it's going to magnify those things. Then you have kids, then you start a business. All these things are magnified. So you cannot allow your mind to think that if you're in a relationship with somebody, or you're starting a business and, oh, we're going to add this new service line, or we just got married, we're going to have this kid and that's going to solve the problem. It doesn't. It just magnifies all the issues that you already have. So I like you explained it a little bit differently. You said it heightened your let's go ability to make those decisions at a high level. And I think
Mhm.
that's really cool. That's a great way to look at it, because I think a lot of people are kind of afraid, or I agree. Maybe procrastinate isn't the right word, but maybe they're waiting for perfect, and they're letting perfect be the enemy of the good. And what as a believer, as you said earlier, what God has for you. And if you're waiting for the perfect scenario, you might miss it. Um, no, that's good, man. How has being an intentional spiritual leader been different than being a leader of your business or a leader on the football field?
So you got some good questions, bro. I love this. So I would I would personally say that when you're a leader in business, right, there's numbers, there's metrics, there's goals, there's
Right.
sales, there's law of averages. When you're a leader in football, there's wins and losses, there's plays you make, there's measurable things. When you are a spiritual leader and you are internally looking on how you can grow your relationship with Yeshua, my believer, who I believe in, um, and you're really looking for how you can better yourself, it's hard to measure. It's hard to sit back and be like, well, I said hi to these 3 people, and I sowed a seed into these 4 people today. Like that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. It's a true walk. It is literally a walk, and it's supposed to be a walk. And ironically, that's all he did was walk, right? So like, but it's
Mm.
really a walk. So it's like, all right, cool. Well, I don't need to focus on like goals and metrics. And I'm gonna be transparent. As a believer, when I first really started walking with Yeshua, I was like, okay, cool. I am trying to hit these goals. I tried to treat it like football. I tried to treat it like business, right? And it was a very like cut and dry, Pharisee-ish type. And by the way, Yeshua is Jesus. Pharisees are, in the Bible. But yes, it was just like very cut and dry for me. And now I've just kind of learned like that's why the first thing I said earlier was like, oh, I don't know if I said it, but by where I'm at right now, spiritually is like slowing down. That's the easiest
Mm.
way I can say. I think in business and in football, it's all about speed, physically, literally, and then like how fast can I get this done? How effectively and fast can I get this done? And that's the name of the game, and it's fine because that's how you grow. That's how you fall on your face. That's how you learn. There are times when you need to be slow and measure, but you don't want to do that too much. It's about execution. Spiritually, it doesn't work like that. You gotta learn. You have to grow. You have to be willing to sit with thoughts, sit with the word, right? So to be a leader, right? If we're speaking just over myself, and then over, obviously the household with, my wife and I, um, it's just taking my time, really learning, really trying to digest the word. That's where I'm at now. That's my focus, spiritually. And the more I study Yeshua and like what he did when he was here, I am trying to model my life in a way the way he did. Because just like I follow mentors on the earth, I felt that it was ignorant for me not to follow my Savior. And by follow, I don't mean just say, oh, yeah, I believe in Jesus and I'm a believer and I go to church. But like, if my mentor tells me right now, I need to make 50 offers a day, I'm going to make 50 offers a day. I'm going to go out and talk to 50 people every day. If my coach tells me to go run through this brick wall, I'm going to run through the brick wall. Right. But when I read a word and God's like, you know what? Well, forgive those who've, done you wrong. Right. Okay. Be patient, be meek. When I hear these things, I'm like, I may choose to do that today. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I gotta keep it simple. And that's kind of the slowing down thing for me. It's just like, keep it simple.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know if that kind of answered your question, bro, but
Dude, that
that's
was perfect, man. I love your emphasis on slow it down. It reminds me of, um, I don't know if you know this about kind of my story, but my wife, when we were in Memphis together, so when we were in San Antonio for training camp,
Mhm.
I wasn't getting paid, right? Like I left my business to come in. I tried out for the team initially, and Big Mike told me he called me up and was like, it was because him that I even got a chance to do the tryout, but he wasn't gonna get me on the team. I had to earn my spot. And he called me after the third tryout and was like, "Hey man, you don't have the juice that you used to, or you probably used to. These young guys, I mean, they got some pop, and we're just not seeing it from you on film. But you can come in and you can be equipment." And so that's where, that's why you guys saw me. I got to be everywhere in the facility because I wasn't getting paid. I was just there to help people and to be an experience and be on the squad. Um,
Mhm.
that didn't stay that way though, because I grinded, because that's who I am. And before we got to Memphis, the GM, they offered me a salary. And my wife got pregnant, um, while we were in San Antonio. And so it was that initial time, the early stages of the pregnancy while we were in Memphis. Well, the league shut down, right? And the day before the league shut down, Will Lewis, the GM, comes to me and he says, "Hey, we want you to be you've been doing a really good job. Our current director of football operations, he's going to go back to the NFL. We want you to be the director of football operations for the team next year. We think you do a really good job." Next day, league shuts down. So we come back to Dallas. I got tail between my leg. Like, I got all this good stuff really going for me. But in that moment, that was that was like I had experienced this great big failure. And so I spent that whole summer trying to recreate what I had. Okay, so if I hustle, if I just add value, if I maximize my time, and optimize everything, I'll be able to recreate what I did in Memphis. I'll just do it outside on my own. And I was go, go, go. And this was the summer of 2019. And it was a Tuesday. It was 5 o'clock. I was running conditioning for a high school that I was coaching. And my wife texts me and says, "Hey, can you come home?" She knew I only had 15 minutes left at practice. And so immediately I'm like, "Dang, come on, man. What could this be?" And she was 38 weeks pregnant with, this would have been our second child, our daughter Eden, and hadn't felt a kick in a few hours. Turns out we go to the doctor, no heartbeat.
Mhm.
Everything stopped, and we lost her. And we've since had Judah, and we just had our daughter Micah last summer. But 2019 was, we went from doing that loss, then I come back and I'm activating as much as I possibly can with my own grit, with my own strength. If it is to be, it's up to me. That was my mindset. And then that happened. And here I was again, lost everything. And that was the darkest moment of my life. And I had to take a lot of time off, but it was a testament to, I had to slow down. And because I didn't choose to, Not that, anything like caused that to happen. We still don't know like why any of that happened. We don't know why the league shut down. That's years ago. We've both moved on since then. You're balling out now, and so am I. But if we don't take the time to slow down, our life will be slowed down for us in any capacity. And I know that now because I felt it. And that I felt it many times since then, getting back into it. But I think you said it the right way. It's so difficult because there's no metric. You just know in your heart really what you're putting in and what you're not putting in. What are you idolizing? What inner wolf are you feeding? And if you're feeding the wrong thing, you might turn around and feel like you're on a hamster wheel, putting out all this energy, but nothing's being produced. In those moments, do we have the wherewithal, the wisdom, the self awareness to take a step back, to slow down and really evaluate where we're at, where our heart is at, what do we need to actually be focusing on in this moment. So anyway, man, I'm always gonna like bring it back to like a personal anecdote if I can relate to what the guest is saying, man. But no, that was really cool. And then just bringing it back to what you had said about the mentorship. I'm curious how you feel about this. I'm going to turn this into a question here in a second, but I've always been the youngest one in the room. I mean, I started as a business owner and entrepreneur at 25. So, I mean, that's probably the age that you are now, right? 25, 26, something like that.
Just turned
So,
27.
bet. Okay. So, I was 25 when we started Mosquito Joe. So, doing all the networking stuff, I was the youngest one in the room. So, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was desperate for mentors, and that's what has helped me grow. Now that I'm 33, I'm in my Jesus year, and I'm not the youngest one in the room anymore. And so
Mhm.
I'm turning around, I'm looking at guys like you and thinking about, I'm J. Cole, I'm the middle child, right? I got guys that are older than me, but I got guys coming up that are younger than me that are balling out. And I'm trying to find my place as a mentor. And where is the position to fill the gap, to add value? I think it's biblical, to have to Paul had Barnabas, and then he also had Timothy, who he was a
Yep.
mentor to. And so we get mentorship, we give mentorship. Have you been able to dude, from the very beginning, you have done nothing but show what quality mentorship, quality mindset, quality grit, and just a great heart towards growth does for a person, the way that you pivoted. And I mean, somebody can go back and just re listen to your story and gain nuggets all the way through. But have you been able to turn around and, where do you see yourself as a mentor to maybe the younger generation or maybe your peers who are in the similar situation to you? Have you found any value or any opportunity there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So my mentor challenged me on that. It was like, you need to become a mentor. But yeah, for me, so I work with kids here in Nashville. I don't really say too much about it, but I work with kids every Tuesday here in Nashville, and that's always good to get around them and be around them. For me personally, though, I have friends. I would say that we don't call it mentorship, but like whatever you want to call it, peer,
Accountability?
yeah, like peer accountability or whatever word you want to use, where they're kind of learning what I'm doing, and honestly, I'm going to answer the question and kind of pivot into the purpose piece because I'm sure it would be good. Not a lot of people know about this, but I want to mentor more people. Um, I am supposed to be mentoring some people coming up here in this month. We'll just see. I think it will happen pretty organically as time goes on. So I'm looking forward to it. But to tie it in with like mentorship and more about because the way I look at mentorship is the age thing is not that big of a deal for me. I look at more like they are somewhere or they have something that I don't, or they are more advanced in the area than I'm not. So they
Good.
have something I
Very
can learn
good.
from. That person could be younger
Yeah.
than me. I don't care. Like I'm not. I don't. I used to be like, oh well, yeah, I don't even care about it anymore. If you're really good at something, whether it's spiritually, physically,
Bring it
mentally,
on.
emotionally.
Yeah.
If you are somewhere where I'm not, where I'm deficient, or where I'm looking to grow, I'm willing to get in relationship with you and learn. So for me to kind of tie into the purpose, what I feel called to do, um, or tied in with like kind of what I want to do, honestly, is I want to change the narrative for professional athletes. That's my goal right now, right? Which is the narrative is play professional sports, go home, play video games, sit on your butt, get on Instagram, talk to beautiful women, uh, and relax. And as professional athletes, let me just say football players because I can only speak for the industry I'm in. I don't know what baseball players do, basketball players, women professional athletes too. So I don't want to speak on something ignorantly, but I know what professional football players do, right? And as far as investment goes or money goes, they're like, oh, I'll put my money in stocks and I'll put in real estate, which are great things. I'm not coming at those. I'm interested in them just as much as the next person. But what I do know is there are a lot of dudes in that locker room who want to not, who are not just interested in passive income. Because if you think about it, if you're a professional athlete, I never hear anybody talking about active income while playing ever. The only thing I hear about is passive. Stocks is passive, depending on unless you're a trader, right? Real estate, for the most part, unless you're wholesaling or you're out here slinging deals, is passive, right? And passive is not a lot of money. It's just not. You got to put a lot of money in to get a little bit of money, and it's more towards the end, like when I
It
retire or
takes
when I do
time.
X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
It takes time, which is still great. Once again, I'm not coming at that, but I'm saying there are so many football players who want to still be making more money and not feel so dependent on the NFL, not feel so dependent on, their, and I'll say football players, but other sports too. You know what I mean? Like that's just the narrative. And I feel like you can have a business and still play professional sports. You just need to be detailed. You need to build an infrastructure. You need to have SOPs. You need to put yourself in that position and not sit around all day. And I know it's tiring. Like I'm tired right now. Just finished working out, 2 hour session. I want to lay down and take a nap, but I know I have stuff to do. I got meetings I got to get
Let's
to.
go.
I got my team.
Yeah.
I got to get ready for this new person I got to bring on because I know that come the middle of the season, I'm going to get an extra paycheck, or I'm going to be able to help the next person, or and it does it whether it's about money or whether it's about helping people. There are a bunch of players who want to. They have other interests. They don't want to just put their money in stocks or the real estate. They genuinely like. They really like shoes. Well, why not start a shoe business? Why not? Like you love shoes. Why not start your own shoe store, right? Or you're really into video games. Why not figure out a way to make a video game? Like there's just
I go back to these guys like Shaquille O'Neal, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and for me, it all goes back to the franchising space because that's what I know. It's how I came up, and I see guys invest money in these businesses, and franchise kind of gets a rap for being just food, but there's 5,000 franchise brands out there. And so it could be anything, and you can just build out the asset if you build out the team. And so, dude, I'm like fully resonated. What do you think holds people back that are these professional athletes? What holds them back from? Is it just knowledge?
I think it's fear. It's the same thing that
Mm.
holds the person back from leaving their 9 to 5. They're super passionate about, creating a food brand that can help people heal, or like selling CBD products, or really into cars and wants to, or wants to do, luxury living and Airbnbs, cars, and provide people services. Like, but they love doing that, but they hate their 9 to 5. Right? It's the same thing. It's just they don't hate their 9 to 5 as a professional athlete, but you're still just no matter what anybody says, you're a professional athlete, you're still a W-2 employee. You're just a super W-2 employee. You know what I mean? Like you're just getting crazy bread.
Yeah.
And it's still great. But at the end of the day, like it's that same mindset because you're used to getting a check every week. You're used to doing this. And like I think as an athlete, you can also get complacent because you're like, well, I'm making all this money. And it will take something happening for you to realize that, you know,
Ooh.
you're not all the time. It's not even, and I'm not even talking about injury. I'm really just talking about like the off season. You'd be sitting at home and you're like, well, I'm only getting this much and I was getting this much. I know they've changed up how they pay players now in terms of like, the full count fiscal calendar year now. But I think it's just fear. I just talked to a lot of people, fear, and then lack of education. But that's a whole nother conversation because, yeah, I don't even want to kind of go into that. But yeah, I would just say fear, man. Just fear is probably one of the biggest things. And then I guess the second one tied with that would just be they don't know how. But once again, that's another conversation because you can figure out how. It's not hard. People just don't want to.
No,
So
that's yeah. No, that's good, man. I like that. I like that you brought it there. And I want to respect your time. I know you got a lot of stuff to do. We're kind of at that 65-minute mark. What, if anything, did I not touch on that maybe you want to give a shout out to that you think could add value to somebody listening to this right now?
my favorite thing to talk about
If
is
anything.
yeah. I'll close with this, man. So the most important thing in life, not the most important thing in life. Let me not make that claim. Um, one of the most impactful things that you can do in your to change your life, if you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to change your life, is your environment. I speak about it all the time. Change your environment. A lot of people talk about go get this book, do this, do that, and it's great. We talked about all that stuff here, but I'm sure Matt can tell you the same exact thing. Nothing changed until his environment changed. What did he surround himself with? And I don't just mean physical environment. Yes, it does require you listening to podcasts. Yes, it does require you changing your YouTube, but you need to change your environment. I'm literally just talking about the baseline environment. What are you subscribed to on YouTube? Right? These are things I would rather tell you to change your environment than tell you to go listen to something because the byproduct of changing your environment is you listening or doing these other things. It's just simple. If you unsubscribe to a bunch of stuff on YouTube that you're typically subscribed to, what's going to happen? Your algorithm is going to change. You're still habitually going to go to YouTube because that's what you do. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you to change your habits. Your environment will change the habits. So for me, that's my advice to everybody is change your environment. So I'll go through them really quickly. Number one could be you. I say YouTube, but that's YouTube, Instagram, podcast.
Okay.
What is something that you click on, an app that you use frequently? Twitter, change the environment. So what does that actually look like? I like giving people applicable steps is unsubscribe from YouTube, unfollow people that aren't if this person's not pouring into you, you don't talk to them at all, you should probably unfollow. Just being honest. It's not if they get mad, just is what it is, right? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're not helping you. If they don't help put food on your table, or they're not pouring into your life in some way, shape, or form, or they're not your friend, or you don't talk to them, they're not gonna be mad at you. Trust me. They have their own life. They'll be mad for a day and they'll get over it, right? So unfollow them, change the people that you subscribe to. And if you aren't on YouTube a lot, I would say start getting on YouTube and just start typing in things that you're interested in, right? And then as far as podcasts, find podcasts and things like that. But honestly, the easiest thing with the environment is just take things out the environment. If you take things out of the environment, once again, new things will just be added. They'll pop up. Oh, this looks kind of interesting. You're gonna click on it, right? So that's one. Number two is the people that you surround yourself with. We all have heard this, 5 people that you surround yourself with are who you are. I know that's difficult for a lot of people. So the thing I always tell people is every person that you feel like you don't have, you need to replace them with a pseudo mentor. So I consider Alex Hormozy my pseudo mentor because I consume his content, right? So if you don't have, oh, well, I don't have any people that are pursuing entrepreneurship or blah, 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 or the industry, just go find somebody in that space. And then from there, make them your friend or your mentor and consume as much of their information as you can, right? And then the last thing I would say about environment is your physical environment, right? So change temperature in your room. And this is gonna sound crazy, but like when you sleep, make sure you got the right temperature in your room. Make sure that your room is well organized. These little things, like you're not gonna meet billionaires that have messy houses. It's just not gonna happen. This is just not happening. Regardless if they have cleaning ladies or not, the crib is not gonna be messy. Right? People are organized. Right. So you want to make sure you have things organized. And once you do that, it will just clear up your mind. You'd be like Matt said, you'd be so surprised when you make one small adjustment how big that changes everything. One small thing, one small
Mm.
unsubscribing from 5 different channels could change your life. Because you could hear one YouTube video, you could listen to one podcast that give you one gem, and it'll change everything. And then the last thing I'll say is this is not the environment piece. If you don't want to do all that and you're like, yo, that's too much, because some people will be lazy and they won't do all that, and that's fine. Execute. That's all I got. Just
Execute.
execute. Whatever information you get, just execute. If Matt comes on here and drops a gem, if I drop the gem for y'all, if somebody else you listen to, if you're listening, if you got this far, right, something in there, execute on something. Just find one thing. Doesn't have to be everything. Execute on one thing. Right? Alex Hormozy uses the phrase "be directionally correct," and I love that. I'm using that for everything.
Mm.
You don't need to be. You don't need to understand every step. You don't need to know what it looks like getting to end. If you can just get directionally aligned and just start executing, you will learn the things necessary along the path. So I know it's a little long-winded, man, but that's what I would say. Environment, execution. Those are, I don't want to call them the most important things, but honestly, if you go into every field, whether it be spiritually, environment, we could spend hours going into every environment of your life,
No doubt.
um, about how to compartmentalize it. And that, I bet if you change your environment, everything else will change. So that's what I would say.
Dude, that was a great way to finish it out. One of my, I got books and books and books. What behind me, this is a fraction. These are just my spinoffs that I keep here. I got stacks at the house and I keep these on rotation. But there's a very small one called Life's Tremendous. Author Thomas, they call him Thomas Tremendous Jones, and he talks about in 10 years you'll be the same person except for the books you read, the people you meet, and the places you go. And that feeds into what you're talking about. And when it talks about the places that you'll go, what I consider that for me is the rooms that I can reside in, right? You got the 5 people that you spend the most time with, which you just already said. And for me, it's my wife, my oldest, my middle, and then my baby girl. So that's already 4 people that I'm going to spend the most time with. And, you talk about these mentors. Well, maybe I don't have anybody in my vicinity, but the pseudo mentors that you're talking about have changed the game for me and so many people. And I listen to you, and there's really no excuse in today's day and age. It's $16 a month for an Audible membership. Podcasts are free. You can hop on, get on a podcast, and learn anything and everything that you could ever possibly want in whatever the field is. And so right now, my life mission is, how do I get into the room? What do I got to do to get into the room? And then once I'm in the room, because I'm getting really good at getting in, and a lot of it is just hitting somebody up on a message. I hit you up and look at this. We just filmed a full episode. It took us some time to get the scheduling right, but we did it. Here it
Yeah,
is.
facts.
And now this is locked in stone. Like, I'll do some editing just to take out if we had any ums or ands or likes or whatever like that. But I'm about to put this out, and this is going to be there. People can add value from this for years, right? And so if I know how to get into the room, and if I can structure my mindset to absorb value when I'm there, so not only can I stay, but after a while, once I get accustomed to the environment, I can lead the room. Anything and everything in your life can change. And so now it's my life mission to get into the room and then turn around. And if I see people who are hungry behind me, how do I pick those individuals out and bring those and yank them up here with me in this room? Because now we got a new room. Now we got a new culture. That's how, in my mind, how we can actually make change and create a better situation for a lot of people's lives. So anyway, man, dude, you were absolutely outstanding. I'm assuming that if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can holler at you on Instagram, on YouTube. I know you got those 2 channels. I'll put the links. I'll put the links in the show notes. Anything else? Any other way that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, just hit me up on Instagram. Hit me with a message. I'll get back to you.
Sweet.
Just go there.
Sweet. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you so much. Arnold Tarpley. Man, Streetwise Nation, listen to this one twice. Take some notes a second time. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.